The alien general's voice boomed through the broadcast, a low, guttural tone laced with scorn. "Humans," he sneered, "your timid nature has been plain to us for years. Your avoidance of conflict, your incessant diplomacy, it all reeks of weakness." He leaned forward, his piercing gaze amplifying the intensity of his words. "We, the Korkak, honor strength, courage, and blood earned on the battlefield. Yet you hide behind your technology, your peace treaties. So we challenge you. Prove you're not the cowards we believe you to be. Send your forces to face us, or we shall declare your species unworthy of existence." Across Earth, the message was met with outrage and uncertainty. While humanity had known of the Korkak's aggressive nature, they'd long managed to keep them at bay through diplomatic channels. Yet this challenge was unlike any before, an open demand for bloodshed, wrapped in a thin veneer of honor. At the Global Council headquarters, humanity's leaders gathered, each face etched with worry. "We could send a full battalion," suggested Admiral Chun, his jaw clenched. "They want a demonstration of strength. We give it to them and put this arrogance to rest." Several council members nodded, but others looked skeptical. "That's exactly what they expect us to do," said Minister Rao, tapping a pen thoughtfully against the table. "The Korkak believe we can only fight in numbers, that we need armies to intimidate. But if we respond in kind, it only confirms their perception of us. What if we showed them something they're not expecting?" Murmurs filled the room. Curiosity piqued. A lean man in the corner, Director Hayes of Special Operations, spoke up. "There is an option," he began, his voice calm but intense. "We have a candidate, a warrior trained for scenarios like this, though the strategy may sound unorthodox." The council fell silent. Hayes continued, his eyes gleaming with conviction. "One soldier. That's all we send. But not just any soldier, a lone sentinel." His words hung in the air, and slowly, expressions shifted from shock to intrigue. The lone sentinels were Earth's elite, a project conceived in secrecy, designed to create warriors who could operate alone behind enemy lines, trained in tactics, adaptability, and survival. Sentinels were chosen not only for skill, but for their ability to embody Earth's resolve. Admiral Chen raised an eyebrow, skeptical. "One soldier? Against an army? That sounds more like a symbolic sacrifice than a strategy." But Hayes was undeterred. "Not a sacrifice. The Korkak value individual strength and honor, but they know nothing of our sentinels. Sending one will seem like an insult, yes. But that's the point. They won't know what to expect, won't anticipate a warrior unlike any they've faced. Our sentinel can do more than survive. He can destabilize them, show them that courage isn't defined by numbers." A slow murmur of agreement rippled through the room, leaders exchanging glances as the unconventional plan took shape in their minds. Minister Rao leaned forward, a faint smile on her face. "This plan has symbolic power. If our sentinel succeeds, he does so on behalf of all of Earth. If he falls, then he falls alone, a single symbol of defiance. It's a risk, but perhaps one worth taking." In the end, the council's decision was unanimous. The order was sent out, and within hours, preparations were underway. Earth's message back to the Korkak was brief, almost dismissive. "We accept your challenge. One soldier will meet your army." The response was everything they expected. Fury radiated from the Korkak command. The alien general could barely contain his rage as he addressed his warriors. "One soldier," he spat, incredulous. "The humans dare to mock us. They send one to face our thousands." He paced in front of his ranks, each step heavy with anger. "Very well. If Earth wishes to send a lamb, we will gladly butcher it." But the choice perplexed the alien forces. Warriors muttered among themselves, unsure of Earth's intent. The Korkak knew well the human reputation for unity and collective defense. This lone warrior tactic didn't fit. The more they thought about it, the less it seemed like a gesture of cowardice, and more something they couldn't define. That unsettled them. On Earth, However, preparations were focused. In the solitude of a training compound, the selected sentinel prepared. His mind was clear, his body conditioned for the task ahead. He was given no grand send-off, no public display of his mission, only the quiet acknowledgement of his role and the unspoken understanding that his task was to embody Earth's spirit. The day came. The sentinel stood alone on the launch pad, his figure stark against the vast expanse of space behind him. He was calm, aware that he would be stepping into a challenge unlike any other. But he held within him the silent strength of his people, a strength that would echo through the stars, no matter the outcome. And with that, Earth's answer was sent hurtling through the dark, the single pod carrying one human warrior, bound for the heart of an alien army, ready to face a challenge that was equal parts impossible and vital. The Korkak would see him as a fool, a pawn, a lamb sent to slaughter. But as humanity watched, they knew this wasn't an act of cowardice. It was the ultimate demonstration of Earth's strength. The drop pod descended from the silent void, cutting through the alien-dominated sky like a spear, singular and defiant. As it neared the ground, the alien soldiers gathered, their ranks stretching in ordered lines. Thousands of eyes fixed on the approaching human vessel, each warrior struggling to understand Earth's intent. Why had they sent one soldier? Was it bravery? A final, desperate insult? Theories flew through the ranks, each alien trying to interpret Earth's audacity. But mostly they saw it as folly. The pod struck the surface, a single, resonant impact amid the desolate battlefield. When the door hissed open, it revealed a lone figure. Tall and armored, he emerged slowly, unmoved by the army before him. He was calm, his every movement deliberate and measured. His helmet, sleek and lined with human technology, obscured his face, leaving only a mirrored visor that reflected the hordes around him. He looked neither impressed nor intimidated, as if this situation, the vast sea of enemies before him, was routine. Around him, alien soldiers shifted uneasily. Their blades and plasma rifles gleamed, yet they hesitated, thrown off by this strange human. They had expected a battle formation, perhaps a handful of fighters, but not one solitary man who seemed almost relaxed, surveying them as if calculating the entire field. To some, it felt wrong, unnatural, like the prelude to a trap they couldn't see. The general sneered, watching the human warrior from atop a metallic ridge. "This is Earth's answer," he muttered, anger seething in his tone. "One soldier, sent to die." He looked around to his commanders, who nodded in agreement, many struggling to suppress laughter. They had heard rumors of the humans' supposed resilience, their pride in so-called individual strength, but this felt beyond reason, a pathetic display dressed as courage. To the general, it was nothing more than another confirmation of Earth's weakness. But as the sentinel stood there alone amidst the enemy, a subtle shift took place. With a steady hand, he activated his suit's tactical display, processing his surroundings. His HUD fed him real-time data on the enemy's positions, terrain layout, and cover points, all integrated with Earth's most advanced adaptive technology. He wasn't here to overpower. He was here to outwit, to prove that strength could be wielded in 100 ways beyond brute force. He activated his cloaking device briefly, flickering into near invisibility, then deactivated it just as quickly. It was a demonstration, a message to the surrounding forces. He could disappear whenever he chose. Around him, murmurs of unease rose, alien soldiers struggling to understand what they'd just seen. Their tactics valued direct confrontation, head-on clashes of strength and will. The Sentinel's technology was unsettling to them, a reminder of humanity's tendency to use ingenuity as a weapon. He scanned the field, silently marking potential escape routes, choke points, and areas he could use to his advantage. There were no wasted movements, no panic gestures. Each look, each shift of his gaze was a precise calculation. He assessed the alien ranks in their entirety, breaking down their formation as if he were merely solving a complex puzzle. This was not a soldier thrown into battle without a plan. He was a strategist, and his battlefield was as much mental as it was physical. Around him, the soldiers' unease turned to frustration. They wanted action, to crush this human who dared stand alone before them. But he remained still, silent, as if waiting for them to make the first move. They didn't understand, couldn't fathom that this solitary figure was already in control. To the alien soldiers, combat was immediate and straightforward. To the sentinel, it was layers of possibility waiting to unfold. The general's sneer grew into a scowl as he watched. The human's calm presence and unnerving composure gnawed at his pride. He barked a command, and a squadron of his elite soldiers began to advance, moving with precision toward the lone sentinel. They expected to see fear, or perhaps desperation, a man on the brink, realizing the folly of his mission. But the sentinel stood firm, watching them approach with a quiet confidence that only deepened the mystery surrounding him. As they closed in, he moved, slowly at first, then with calculated precision. He activated his weapon, a compact rifle designed for rapid adjustments, switching effortlessly from short to long-range combat. His armor, woven with adaptive materials, shifted subtly, responding to his surroundings. Every piece of his gear was optimized for versatility, a sharp contrast to the alien soldiers' heavy, straightforward armaments. The squad halted briefly, unsure of how to proceed. One brave soldier stepped forward, brandishing his blade, but the sentinel made no aggressive moves. He simply tilted his head, almost as if observing a curious specimen. The alien faltered, unnerved by the human's composure, but pressed forward nonetheless. It was then that the sentinel struck a single, precise movement that disarmed and disoriented the alien without ending his life. It was as if the sentinel were proving a point, that he could have taken this alien's life, but chose not to. The squad watched in stunned silence, and for the first time, doubt seeped into their ranks. This human was not only skilled, he seemed almost supernatural, an apparition of unyielding calm in the face of their collective strength. The general, witnessing this from afar, felt his sneer falter. For reasons he couldn't explain, the human's presence felt less and less like a joke and more like a looming shadow. He clenched his fists, unwilling to admit that the confidence he had felt moments ago was slipping. In the midst of the battlefield, the sentinel lowered his weapon, giving the impression that he'd completed some private calculation. He waited, allowing the silence to hang between himself and the alien soldiers. He didn't need to speak. His mere presence was enough. The alien forces watched him, their resolve shaken, as they began to see him not as a single soldier, but as an enigma, a living symbol of Earth's unpredictable nature. Without warning, he vanished, his cloaking device activating once more, leaving only a faint distortion in the air where he'd stood. The alien soldiers gasped, some instinctively raising their weapons. They scanned the area, desperately searching for him, but he was already gone, slipping into the shadows with a silent grace that defied their understanding. He'd become a ghost on their battlefield, a presence that challenged everything they thought they knew about humanity. The general's rage simmered as he barked orders to tighten their formation, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he had already lost something intangible, something vital to his own morale. The human had come alone. Yes, but he had brought something with him, a message, a reminder that Earth was far from the weak, timid species the Korkak believed it to be. In that moment, the general realized he was facing more than a single soldier. He was facing a force, an idea, something beyond the limits of his own understanding. And for the first time, he felt a flicker of something foreign, something he had never expected to feel in the presence of a human. In a split second, the sentinel sprang into action. Moving like a shadow across the battlefield, he delivered the first strike, a carefully calibrated shot that disabled one of the alien vanguard's heavy artillery units. The weapon exploded with a flash, leaving a crater where it once stood, and the alien soldiers around it recoiled, stunned by the sudden destruction. Before they could regroup, the Sentinel had already repositioned himself, blending seamlessly into the surrounding terrain. The alien forces scrambled, the once organized vanguard thrown into disarray. The Sentinel struck again, this time from a different angle, taking down key soldiers with precision shots that pierced armor and targeted vulnerable points. His movements were flawless, each strike delivered with a level of control that left no room for error. He seemed to know their positions before they did, as if he were reading their tactics from an invisible playbook. The alien soldiers faltered, confusion giving way to a simmering fear that rippled through their ranks. In the midst of this chaos, alien commanders barked orders, attempting to regroup. They deployed their elite squads, warriors known for their ferocity and training, but each encounter with the Sentinel ended the same way. He adapted to their movements with uncanny speed, countering every charge, every defensive maneuver, as if he had already fought them 100 times over. His agility seemed almost unnatural. He moved with a fluidity that defied the weight of his armor, slipping through gaps in their formation, striking hard, then vanishing just as quickly. As the elite squads charged, the Sentinel's weaponry came to life. His primary weapon, a compact assault rifle, shifted modes in response to the armor types it encountered, its rounds adapting to bypass the aliens' defenses. One moment, it unleashed a burst of armor-piercing rounds. The next, it emitted a high-frequency pulse that disrupted electronic systems. To the aliens, it was as if his weaponry was a living thing, designed to counter every technological advantage they believed they held. Each squad that advanced found themselves picked apart, their armor rendered useless as the Sentinel's arsenal bypassed every layer of their defenses. He moved through the ranks, using his surroundings to his advantage, taking cover behind rocks and debris, exploiting every inch of terrain to outmaneuver his attackers. His precision was unyielding, his shots and strikes landing with lethal accuracy. Each alien that attempted to flank him was met with a brutal response, each attempt to surround him unraveling as he countered, adapted, and struck back with deadly force. Watching from his command post, the alien general's sneer faded into a frown, his confidence shaken as he witnessed the humans' relentless efficiency. This was not the skittish prey he'd expected. This was a predator, one who knew the field better than his own soldiers. With every squad that fell, the general's initial assurance of victory began to waver. This was no sacrificial pawn. This was a master of warfare, an emissary of Earth's might, sent to teach them the true cost of their arrogance. Desperately, the alien commanders revised their tactics, ordering their forces into smaller, tighter units, hoping to surround and overwhelm the Sentinel. But it was as though he anticipated their every move. He allowed them to close in, only to shift positions at the last moment, striking from a blind spot, vanishing again before they could react. His resilience was unlike anything they had encountered. He showed no signs of fatigue, his movements as crisp and calculated as they had been at the outset. The elite squads became wary, their initial aggression tempered by caution. They no longer charged. They advanced with hesitation, glancing over their shoulders, dreading the moment he would appear. And he always did, in a place they least expected, dismantling their formations with ruthless precision. With each victory, he left a trail of fallen enemies, a testament to his skill and to the humans' refusal to yield to intimidation. As the battlefield grew quieter, pockets of alien forces began to retreat, backing away from the man they had so casually mocked. To the general, the sight was infuriating, and yet, deep down, he knew this was more than a soldier. This was a statement. Earth had sent one man, not out of cowardice, but to prove a point, that their strength lay not in numbers, but in strategy, adaptability, and an unbreakable will. The general's hands clenched as he watched his forces waver, their morale crumbling in the face of this unyielding foe. The Sentinel had become more than a soldier. He had become a symbol, a reminder that Earth's strength ran deeper than brute force, and that humanity had mastered a form of warfare his people had never anticipated. With growing desperation, the alien commanders sent out final waves of their elite, each squad determined to reclaim the battlefield, yet each meeting the same fate. The Sentinel moved like an unstoppable force, adapting to every new tactic, defying their every attempt to bring him down. His presence alone struck fear into them, a fear that grew with each calculated strike, each reminder that they were facing a warrior who embodied Earth's resilience. And with each moment that passed, the general's confidence eroded further, his belief in his own invincibility stripped away by a single, unrelenting human. In the heart of the battlefield, the Sentinel stood alone, unbroken, the silence of the fallen around him a testament to humanity's might and an answer to every taunt that had been thrown Earth's way. The Sentinel altered his approach, blending into the shadows and striking only when least expected. His movements became even more elusive, turning the battlefield into a hunting ground where he was both the hunter and the unseen terror stalking his prey. Every now and then, he would let himself be glimpsed, a shadow darting between rocks, a silhouette vanishing in the mist. Each of these fleeting sightings sent waves of dread through the alien ranks. Soldiers whispered of a phantom human, their voices quivering, their fear multiplying with every second he remained unseen. Paranoia took root. Alien soldiers, once disciplined and proud, began glancing over their shoulders, flinching at the slightest sound. They could feel his presence even when they couldn't see him, and that invisible weight bore down on them with an intensity that made breathing feel difficult. To them, he was no longer just a human. He had become something supernatural, an embodiment of death itself. Word of his supposed inhuman abilities spread like wildfire through the ranks. Soldiers spoke of how he had taken down entire squads with movements they swore were faster than the eye could follow. Tales of his silent footsteps, his ability to appear and disappear at will, and his unerring precision grew with each telling. Fear turned to superstition. Some of the alien troops began to believe he wasn't human at all but a demon Earth had unleashed to haunt them. They saw him as an entity beyond their understanding, one they had provoked and now could not escape. Then, the Sentinel spoke over their communication channels, shattering the last remnants of their composure. His voice was calm, steady, and devastatingly clear. He spoke in their language, revealing an intimate knowledge of their culture, their honor codes, and even their fears. He taunted them, each word a carefully aimed strike at their collective psyche. He mocked their leader's arrogance, reminded them how their general had called Earth weak, and asked if they now understood what humanity was truly capable of. Hearing him speak their language, with a tone so measured yet cutting, was more than unsettling. It felt like an invasion of their minds. The alien general's soldiers began to question everything they had been told about humanity. How could this lone human know so much about them? How could he move like he did, fight with such precision, and speak with such insight? It was as if he had been studying them, anticipating their every thought. This realization took a terrible toll on their morale, transforming their uncertainty into a full-blown terror that even the general could not ignore. The general, watching his once proud soldiers crumble under the strain, felt his own confidence shatter. He had underestimated this man, underestimated humanity. His pride wounded and his temper ignited. He ordered a reckless, all-out assault, a desperate attempt to overwhelm the Sentinel through sheer force. Yet his forces were already broken. Discipline was lost, and many soldiers hesitated, haunted by the idea of facing the one they now referred to as the ghost of Earth. The chaotic assault played right into the Sentinel's hands. He exploited their fear with cold, calculated precision, leading them into ambushes, corralling them like prey into positions from which they couldn't escape. His traps were flawless, each maneuver drawing them deeper into his web. The soldiers who dared pursue him found themselves isolated, cut off from reinforcements, and eliminated one by one. He was methodical, each strike swift and unrelenting, each victory silently marking their defeat. As the alien soldiers continued their frenzied assault, The sentinel moved as if guided by instinct, exploiting every psychological weakness he had planted. When he let them hear him approaching, they scattered. When he went silent, they froze, paralyzed by the thought that he might be behind them. Every step he took on the battlefield was a calculated move to feed their terror, a relentless pressure that squeezed the fight out of them before they even raised a weapon. In the midst of their mounting panic, the alien general's frustration reached its peak. He bellowed orders through the comms, demanding his soldiers push forward, calling them cowards if they hesitated. But they had seen what this coward from Earth could do, and no amount of shouting could undo the image they had of him. Each soldier who tried to muster courage soon found himself alone, cut off, with no choice but to turn back, retreating from the phantom that haunted their every step. The general's words fell flat, his commands rendered useless by the demoralized state of his troops. As his forces dwindled, he finally understood the true cost of his arrogance. This was not a battle anymore. It was a slow, meticulous dismantling of his entire military force, a psychological siege that crushed them from the inside out. The general could only watch, helpless, as his once powerful army disintegrated under the pressure, each soldier falling into the traps set by Earth's lone emissary. The final strikes of the Sentinel were quieter than the first, deliberate and precise, a testament to humanity's mastery of both warfare and the mind. And with each soldier he defeated, he left a silent message. Earth was not to be underestimated. The alien general, surrounded by the ruins of his once powerful army, stood alone, his face twisted with fury and disbelief, unwilling to accept the extent of his defeat. He had mocked Earth, taunted humanity, and now everything he had built was crumbling before him. And it had all been brought down by a single human, a figure he had considered unworthy of his respect. With nothing left to lose, he stepped forward, shouting a challenge that cut through the chaos around him. This would be the final duel, a test of honor and strength. The sentinel approached, calm and resolute. Despite the long, grueling hours of combat, he moved with the same precision and focus he had maintained from the beginning. The general, towering and heavily armored, was the epitome of alien combat prowess, every inch a warrior raised in tradition and honor. Yet the sentinel's expression remained steady. He understood the general's strength, but he also knew it alone wouldn't be enough to win. The duel began with a clash that shook the ground. The general attacked with brute force, his strikes heavy and powerful, each one a testament to his years of training. Yet, with each attempt, the sentinel evaded, his movements swift and deliberate, using minimal effort to avoid the general's crushing blows. Where the general relied on raw strength, the sentinel relied on strategy, letting his opponent wear himself down with every swing. They exchanged blows, each testing the other, each probing for weaknesses. The general's attacks grew faster, more desperate, his pride wounded with each miss. He hurled insults, accusing the sentinel of cowardice for not standing still, for not fighting with honor. But the sentinel remained silent, letting his actions speak louder than words. This was humanity's way, not a blind adherence to honor, but an adaptability that used intelligence and resilience to overcome any opponent. The general's frustration boiled over, his movements becoming reckless. The sentinel seized the opportunity, taking advantage of every flaw in the general's form. He dodged a particularly wild swing, moving closer and landing a precise blow to the general's armor joints. The strike was small but effective, exposing a vulnerability in the alien's otherwise impenetrable defense. The general snarled, anger flaring in his eyes as he realized the sentinel's strategy. The fight continued, a tense dance of strength against precision. The sentinel, though visibly tired, pressed on, each move calculated to draw the general further into his trap. Where the alien brute struggled to land a hit, the sentinel struck with purpose, each attack chipping away at the general's defenses. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a demonstration of humanity's capacity to overcome, to adapt, and to endure beyond what was thought possible. The general, sensing his defeat, launched one final, all-out assault, aiming to crush the sentinel with everything he had left. But the sentinel anticipated the move. In a decisive counterattack, he evaded the oncoming strike, slipping past the general's guard and delivering a swift, devastating blow that took him down. The alien staggered, the strength drained from his body, as he realized his loss. He had underestimated this lone soldier, and now he stood defeated, his legacy shattered. As the general fell, a hush spread over the battlefield. Alien soldiers, the few who remained, watched in stunned silence, the weight of what they had witnessed settling over them. The sentinel, steady but visibly exhausted, lowered his weapon. He had proven his point without a single boast, without a single taunt. His victory spoke volumes. Humanity might desire peace, but they were anything but weak. With the duel concluded, the surviving alien forces slowly retreated, their eyes lingering on the sentinel as they backed away. They would return to their world with tales of the human who had defied all odds, a warrior whose spirit and skill had humbled them. Across the galaxy, they would speak of the lone sentinel, a name that would become a legend, a warning, a reminder that humanity was not to be challenged lightly.